study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
LinkedIn is great at connecting you with the world's largest professional network. But it can't connect you with motivation on a Monday morning. LinkedIn can help you get insights from your professional community. But it can't give you any insight into why Dave's still talking on mute. And while it can't stop your boss from bringing tuna for lunch, LinkedIn can help bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit LinkedIn.com to learn more.
You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Capitalism continues to fail, and the entrepreneur's dilemma, family, hobbies, and the pursuit of success. Enjoy. Welcome to the Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. This is a show all about my business adventures and side quests. Some of the businesses that I own are 3T Warrior Academy, Freedom Insurance, Blockhead's the smartest way to track your crypto, Age of Radio, and Q Financial, and about to finalize Ginstar Rentals and get that going. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about microfinance and how capitalism tried to save those in third world countries, and it's not going too well, as could be expected, but I want to relate that back to you here in the United States, or maybe in a third world, first world country that you might be listening from, as it relates to debt and leverage with business. Then I also want to talk a little bit about looking at entrepreneur from a lens of managing the time, saying no when you have to, I guess, and making sure that you're still doing your hobbies. I picked up a new hobby over the weekend, and I think that it's going to be a big part of my life. And then I started doing another hobby I started doing something in a hobby that I've had for a long time, and it just made me rethink, kind of like what we really value in life and what we're trying to accomplish in it. All meanwhile, Elon Musk has become a trillionaire because he works literally nonstop. So it made me think about what it is in his life or how he might manage his time in his life, and about whether or not he is truly, truly happy. What led me to think a little bit more about this. But it'll make sense as we go along. But before we get started, make sure that you head on over to Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. Get your 30 days free for Merlin. Merlin allows you to aggregate all of your cryptocurrency into one place. You can set exit targets. You can profit like the pros, essentially, by setting exit targets and taking money out on the way up so you don't become someone else's exit liquidity. And we're in the process of creating entry tool capabilities so that you could get into the market on the way, I guess, down is how luck would have it, especially right now, because of the fact that cryptocurrency was having a pretty bad go at it lately. But that's the reason why you need these specific tools, because at the end of the day, cryptocurrency isn't going away. Things will go back up, but on that way down, you wanted to enter, and on the way up, you want to take profit and put into other appreciating assets, which is part of our Capital DR system, which if you're interested in that, head on over to 3twarrioracademy.com. Also, make sure that you go to my YouTube channel, subscribe. More content's going to be coming up on there. My Age of Jeremy conversations with Chief Operating Officer Annie Landers at Junior Achievement's going to be up there. You can also watch me on the New Wealth Transfer podcast. I'm doing a lot of podcasts. I don't know if you guys remember Bob's Burger, but there was an episode where Bob had a famous football player do a commercial at his restaurant, and then that person did a commercial at Jimmy Pesto's place across the street. And while he was watching all the commercials at the Super Bowl, he said, I was in a lot of commercials today. That's what I feel like about podcasts. I'm in a lot of podcasts these days, but I'm really trying to build the brand of media that I'll be rebranding here shortly. So I just want to make sure that you're out there listening to it all, because it spans across different types of concepts. Then there's also the Mercury show that I do on Mercury by Age of Radio. That is a show all about podcasting and pop culture. And I'm really excited to continue to do that show and make that more fun, because that's more of an entertaining show for me, and staying up to date with things that I enjoy, like pop culture and podcasting. To get us into this first segment here, I want to talk about microfinancing. Back in the 1970s, a U.S.-trained economist named Muhammad Yunus was visiting a village in Bangladesh during a famine. He met a young mother making bamboo stools and was trapped in debt just to buy her supplies. So he gave her and other women the equivalent of $27 to clear their debts. This sparked the idea for microfinance, which was giving tiny loans to poor entrepreneurs who weren't served by traditional banks. So essentially, in these third world countries, they didn't have banks where they could go and get debt, I guess, which is what we thrive on and love in the United States. He couldn't get debt to pay off the bills to keep the business afloat, which a lot of the times, especially if it's reselling or manufacturing, there is a lot of debt that goes into that to get the supplies and or to get the merchandise to resell. So traditionally, debt can help with some of those types of things, especially lines of credit. But the goal in this was really simple. It was to use capitalism to cure global poverty, to help people start small businesses, expand access to education, and end gender equality. So it sounds like some really great goals. It became a global movement led by the Grameen Bank, which Yunus funded in 1983. Now, a lot of people love this idea, especially capitalists. It was the ultimate doing good while doing well business model. In 2006, Yunus won the Nobel Peace Prize, famously telling his audience in Oslo that in a poverty-free world, the only place you would see poverty is in poverty museums. Prominent figures from Hillary Clinton to Natalie Portman were praising it, but fast forward 2 decades and the reality looks radically different. This is a piece from the Wall Street Journal that I'm using for this episode. That link will be in the episode description if you want to get a subscription to the Wall Street Journal and listen or read the entire thing. And simply put, the Wall Street and massive banks realized that poor people were exceptionally reliable at paying back their debts. Drawn by high interest rates and incredibly low default rates, commercial banks, private equity funds, and taxpayer-funded agencies flooded this specific market, a microfinance market. Today, most microfinance lenders look absolutely nothing like what Muhammad Yunus envisioned. We are no longer talking about $27 loans. Remember, Yunus did it. It was these micro loans in these poverty-stricken places that were designed to, essentially the way that I look at it is, it wasn't designed to take the mother that was selling in her wares at the marketplace and had the debt. It was more along the lines of that, right? Where we pay for those people to be small business, right? If we think about the cash flow quadrant, we have the employee and the small business owners. For those small business owners, so that they could have their job, keep living the life that they want, free from, working for someone, and they could pay those loans off. But the global microfinance industry last year had $219.7 billion in outstanding loans. There are now over 140 million borrowers globally. The average borrower owed $1,381 in 2025, which is almost double what it was in 2009. And this was a major turning point happened in 2007 when Mexico's largest microfinance lender, Compartamos Banco, raised about $450 million in an IPO, making its early backers tens of millions in profit. So think about what capitalism did there. It made these owners of the financing, right? Because financing is one of the real things that is one of the illusionary things that we have, but is one of the things that drive GDP in countries and produce some of the most wealthy. The focus rapidly shifted from poverty elevation to corporate scaling and aggressive lending. Even Muhammad Yunus warned that for-profit lenders were starting to act like the very loan sharks they were supposed to replace. If you look at the academic data, the failure is even more staggering. In 2015, the American Economic Journal published evaluations from 6 different countries, and none of them found statistically significant income increases for families who received microloans. One study in Ethiopia even found a significant drop in food consumption among borrowers. Rather than using these loans to build flourishing businesses, many desperate borrowers are using them just to pay for basic medical expenses and daily necessities, which is what happens with debt in general in places that don't have most of these things taken care of. One, and two, if you can't pay for something and you don't have the education, the financing, the personal financing, the growth, the money saved, then you end up doing things like this where you borrow something for your business, right? And then you utilize that for basic living. And that traditionally is what happens with debt in general in any type of situation. When the interest rates kick in, and in some Latin American countries, they can top 100%. And in Mexico, effective rates have been cited above 400%. You create another debt trap. In 2010, politicians in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh actually blamed microfinance loans for a horrific wave of suicides, accusing lenders of aggressively signing up impoverished people who had no ability to repay. Okay, so in the situation where Yunus was walking through wherever, I can't remember, Bangladesh, and he saw the person who needed the $27 and he gave that person the $27, that person had a business that was working, she had been doing for a while, and she just had to be able to pay for some certain things, right? In the case of, and this isn't 100% like I know this, but my guess is that these lenders went and enticed people to start businesses because they were willing to give them a loan so that they could get money in the long run, because they're capitalists, right? They could get money in the long run, and then they got those individuals to start businesses that they didn't know how to do, that they didn't know how to grow, and because of that, they couldn't repay back those specific loans. Okay, and that's, again, the aggressive lending that took place. Now, to look into another place that the article looks at is Cambodia, where the average microfinance borrower owes over $3,900. That is nearly 3 times the country's median annual per capita income. To put that into a little bit of perspective, we could think of it as if you make $50,000 a year, you owe $150,000 in borrowing debt, okay? Which could be true for some people in the United States. The article goes on to talk a little bit, goes on to do some interviewing, and there's this one person, Samritha Tharav. She's a 47-year-old mother of 3 in Cambodia. In 2015, she borrowed $3,000 to renovate her parents' roof and buy farming fertilizer. She quickly fell behind and had to take out another $3,000 loan just to pay off the balance. Kind of sounds like a Ponzi scheme from the bank's perspective. To try and survive, her family moved to the city. Her husband drove a motorcycle taxi for $5 to $7 a day, and she sorted garbage at a recycling plant for as little as $1 a day. It still wasn't enough, so her son had to drop out of school at age 13 to sort garbage alongside of her. Today, Samrith pays $80 a month just to cover the interest, and she is tormented by the threat of her parents losing the land that secures the loan. She admitted to reporters that she has had suicidal thoughts, and the only thing keeping her alive is the fear of sadding her kids with her debt. That's what debt does to people. Now, this is incredibly common in Cambodia. Loans over $3,000 are usually secured by a borrower's land. It became so normal for borrowers to take out new loans just to pay off old loans that there is a specific phrase for it in the Khmer language. It's bigvul loy, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, which translates to cycling money. Human rights groups have even filed complaints against the World Bank's private investment arm, documenting hundreds of cases of predatory practices, land loss, and even suicide linked to these debts. And again, In my opinion, this is because they went from a capitalist standpoint as a bank. Same thing that they do here in the United States. They try to entice you to get these loans without any education of how to manage debt, of how to manage a business, of how to manage personal finances. And then it causes them to causes the borrower to not understand what's happening, to fall behind. And then the bank, what do we do here in the United States? We do the same thing. Oh, let's consolidate your loan. It's just loan recycling. That's what we do over and over and over again. And it is caused by the current state of capitalism that we have. Now, I like to look at both sides. The article looks at both sides. Okay, I'm not going to go and just say capitalism is going to ruin the world. I think capitalism has to be changed. And a lot of people might think, well, Jeremy, you're a capitalist. You own stuff. Yes, I do own it. And I understand the problem with it. I own stuff. I'm rewarded because I own stuff. Now, I do work very, very hard. The people around me work very, very hard. And I'm using this as a resource to start other businesses, go into philanthropy, try to work to change the current system. And there is probably something that can work that's similar to capitalism, but not the type of iteration of capitalism that we have. Probably more something a little socialist. Okay, oh, he's a communist, he's a socialist. I'm not going to go out there and tax everybody to holy hell. We need to think about what's actually happening in the situation and how we can make better outcomes for all individuals that are involved inside of our society. Now, the World Bank maintains that microfinance can help people grow businesses and raise incomes, and they've worked to improve consumer protections. Experts like Jonathan Morduck at NYU point out that while microfinance didn't cure poverty, it does provide poor families with basic liquidity, which can be beneficial because I do believe that for us to have a society, we have to be able to sell goods and services to other individuals. When a medical emergency hits or a farmer needs to bridge the gap between planting and harvesting, having a commercially viable institution to borrow from is better than nothing. And I do agree with that in some instances. Newer studies also show that it is effective at helping people who are already established entrepreneurs expand. And that's what I think is beneficial. It would make sense that if there is an established entrepreneur and they take out a microloan, that if they're established, it would probably benefit them because they're able to get the money coming in. They would be able to have the cash flow. They would be able to pay out the loan. What probably happened in the state, whether it was malicious or not, what probably happened, there were marketing practices that went out there that were trying to entice people that never ran a business before, had no understanding of it, did not know the grind, did not know the wherewithal that you had to have for it, and then they probably borrowed loans to start their businesses, which is usually what happens here in the United States. Now, the massive unchecked commercialization of microfinance has proven that dumping debt onto the world's poorest people is not a magic bullet for development. We wanted to build a world where, the microfinance wanted to build a world where poverty was relegated to museums. Instead, for millions of families globally, it just added to the crushing weight of high interest debt to their daily struggle to survive because the world runs off of debt. This was a article from the Wall Street Journal. It's in the episode description. Make sure that you go subscribe to the journal, read it. In fact, read more news in general. It frustrates me that people don't read news, but that's okay. I'm sure I frustrate a lot of people about, I don't know, things that I say about religions on X. Who knows? Okay, so the point is that this is all debt related. If we look at what we're going into in the United States, I encourage every single person. I have Quick and Simplify. Me and my partner have sat down. We're starting to relook at our budget. We're starting to work together as a team, as a family unit, to make sure that all of our things are in place because we have a ton of cash. We don't want to be spending that willy-nilly. We want to be using it to grow our family, to grow our household, to grow what we're trying to do. Okay. And so that's one of the key things that I encourage everybody to do that's out there right now. You have to have a budget with spending controls in place. I use Quick and Simplify. You can use Rocket Money. Go find out what works for you. Spend the money, find the money to buy the software, to utilize it and look at it on a regular basis so that you know where your spending is. I felt that I was getting a little out of control spending. We were traveling a lot more. We were eating out a lot more. And then being able to look at it and say, okay, I didn't do as bad as I thought, but we did do a lot. So we should probably put some of these things in check, because it's more beneficial to save that money for other businesses, for family trips, for things that we want to buy around the house, so we don't have to use debt. Everybody, no matter how much you make, can get decent at not spending and managing your spending. If you're a business owner, only go into debt if it's going to create some type of cash flow that you can utilize to pay off that debt. For example, I leveraged my Bitcoin. I used that money. I put it into some stocks and ETFs that are part of a dividend portfolio that I'm testing, that I just buy out the same time, the same day, every single week. I put a certain percentage into a bunch of different ETFs and stocks. It's generating me roughly about $200 a week. And so I put money from my Bitcoin into that. I take that $200. I'm paying off of my Bitcoin loan. Once that's done, then I'm going to go and have $200 that I can put into appreciating assets. Okay. Again, what the elites do is they use leverage to buy cash flow, to pay off the loan as quickly as they can. And then they just have free cash flow coming in. That's what business is. That's what finance is. That's what we're supposed to be doing with business. Do I do that well with all of my businesses? Absolutely not. Am I trying to get better at doing that with some of my businesses? Absolutely. So again, go check out this article. Go read up on microfinance. Maybe you'll find a passion for it. It's one of the reasons why I talk about these things. But again, capitalism can't save everything. There has to be other things in place where the governments are watching out from capitalists, either actively taking advantage of people or possibly taking advantage of people by not properly educating them. And again, I think that these things could work and could be beneficial if there was more education in place and help for these entrepreneurs to be successful.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Trading at Schwab is now powered by Ameritrade, bringing you an expanding library of education with even more ways to sharpen your trading skills. Access new online courses, insightful webcasts, articles, engaging videos, and more, all curated just for traders. Plus, guided learning paths with content designed to fit your unique interests. No sifting to find exactly what you need, so you can spend your time learning to trade brilliantly. Learn more at schwab.com/trading.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Cats, here to level up your litter game with their new Performance Plus lineup. Your home is your happy place, your cats, VIPs. So when it comes to the litter box, excellence isn't optional. Choose from products that specialize in max power clumping, low tracking, or odor fighting so advanced, stink won't see it coming. Tidy Cats Performance Plus. Mission mighty, keep it tidy. Shop now at tidycats.com.
This weekend, I finally got to do a hobby that I have wanted to do for a long time. There's been 4 main weapon-related hobbies that I've wanted to be a part of. 1 was archery. 2 was the naginata. 3 was like this bludgeoning weapon that samurai warriors or monk warriors in Buddhism used to use. But I have to have one specially made, but it's like a club, essentially. And then swords of different natures. Okay. And I have never found a place or took the time to really set up to go and do the training for it, to get a basic learning of that. But I did do on archery because my partner, she does archery. She's really good at it. So now I wanted to find something that we could do together as a hobby. And because I have a passion for archery and those types of things, I decided to do that, which I think is going to even build our relationship stronger. So I'm really thankful for her in introducing me to that and then showing me the place that's really close to my house. Out of all of the other things that I've wanted to learn, this one's really close to my house to go to. I can go on a regular basis. basis. I can practice working on a private coach. And it's a hobby that I've wanted to get into. And it made me really think about, I have a really grindy culture in me, mainly because I can't sit still. And there's so many things that I want to accomplish and share with the world. And trying to get those things into repetitive patterns is what I'm doing here with the podcast. And those things take time. They get you into routine. Routines are the things that make time go by faster. The less of a routine that you have, and the more that you're spending time doing the things that, like health, right? Like fitness, like sleep, like spending time with other individuals, doing the things that we enjoy. We know that those things like add to the longevity of life. And those are like the most important things that we could be doing for the longevity of life. And so it begs the question on how do you balance that, being an entrepreneur and trying to accomplish all of these great things. When I think of Elon Musk becoming the world's first trillionaire, who has reportedly worked 120 hours a week, and I'm sure he enjoys a lot of the things that he's doing. But, there was an interview that he did with Kara Swisher during one of the most hardest times that he had with Tesla. And he just was saying it was difficultly hard. It was causing him to have to take medicine so that he could sleep through the night. There was a lot of anxiety, right? And those things entrepreneurs can thrive on. It's still not healthy. And it still warrants, maybe you want to go and play video games. Like his favorite hobby is playing video games. And so it really makes you think about like, what is it that, how should entrepreneurs manage their life and their time? I traditionally try to do it through time blocks, which I've talked a lot about. I could do better at that. The problem that I have with time blocks sometimes it can get overwhelming for me personally, because you have everything blocked out every moment of every single day. So you're just going from one thing to the next. And then the key is to block in like the things that you enjoy doing. Like I enjoy writing music with my friends. I enjoy working on my album. I enjoy spending time with my partner. I enjoy going out on dates. I enjoy, the planting that we do, the archery that we're doing. And so it begs the question, how do you manage that apart from just like blocking all of that time out? And is it good to do those things? And can it make you even a better entrepreneur? I think we can all agree that doing those things that you enjoy can make you a better entrepreneur. But, everyone does get 24 hours. And the real difference between successful entrepreneurs and struggling entrepreneurs is really how they manage their energy. And that's one of the things that I suck at. Family replenishes emotional energy, which I feel all of the time. Hobbies replenish creative energy, which is the reason why I love doing my hobbies. Exercise replenishes physical energy, which I do on a regular basis. And then, one of the things that continuously falls to the wayside is faith, spirituality, and reflection. I don't get to do as much, right? Because business consumes most of my time, but at the end of the day, business can really consume all of those things as well. And I think that when you look at the people that are the most successful, it's not whether or not you're balancing work and life, it's how you intermingle all of those things together. And so one of the first casualties of when I became an entrepreneur, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, are their hobbies. Right? My guitars would collect dust. My books would go unread. I would have hiking boots that would be super clean because I like going outside and doing things. An entrepreneur begins to believe, as I believe, that every moment must produce some type of revenue, that we have to be in this constant work grind culture. But really, when we think about hobbies, they provide something that business cannot. Okay. They are the thing that define really who we really are, that's not defined from our business. Like when someone asks you, tell me about yourself, most people go directly to her business. We don't say, well, you know what? I like to sit. The thing that I like to do the most is I sit in my library. I spend a lot of time in my library, working on my library, reading books, writing things, right? We would go to, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I have this business, I make this much money and this much money, right? But that's what we do, not really who we are. But some kinds it can be a little bit who we are, depending on what we do inside of our business. Okay. But we need to start looking at that as who we are as an individual and who we are as a person. And a lot of the times, many entrepreneurs themselves become so intertwined with their companies that if the company disappeared, they wouldn't know who they were. And so if your company disappeared, are you a human being apart from your business? And that's the thing that I'm trying to make sure that I reflect that inside of the world. The other thing is always, I had a difficult time. I do CJV's podcast on Sundays. I try to record this on Sundays. I'm recording this first thing Monday morning before my first meeting starts. And I will probably not get this finalized and edited till after my first meeting's over. And then I'll get it pushed out, and then I'll start doing some other work for the day. And the reason why I couldn't do it on Sunday was because my grandmother had her birthday, and that created a lot of anxiety to me. It wasn't on my calendar. I forgot about it. I didn't know we were doing something. My family decided to do something last minute. And then it was this exact thing that was happening. It felt like a really distraction from the thing that I needed to do to be successful. Right. But it's not. Right. And it's the same thing that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs and their children, which is why I give a lot of props to CJV that while he does stop it too. He does work like on the weekends and stuff like that. So, but he stops it too because he wants to make sure that he's spending time with his son. Like I would rather, he would rather be, a multimillionaire than a billionaire as long as he got to spend time with his child. And that's kind of like more of the mentality that I'm trying to get into. I feel that as far as like work responsibilities, like the physical things that need to be done, not discounting not saying that like content creation and that creativity doesn't take energy and work, but I'm saying like the books, the financing, following up with clients, having my coaching clients, educating my assistant. There's these other things that fall out of that go deeper into that realm that do require me, because I don't have enough team members to go and push more of my time into some of these areas, because I don't spend the time to teach the people that I need to do those things. It was really hard for me to start seeing friends more, right? Because we think of that, okay, we're spending time with friends. Should we just be playing music for music? I've just been going and playing music and writing it. They're the ones that want to like really focus on the recording. I'm just having a hell of a time going and playing it for the first time ever, not being like, oh, this needs to be a thing. Okay. And entrepreneurs often tell themselves, oh, I'm doing this for my family, but you really should be doing it for yourself. Okay. I'm sorry. They tell the story. I explained that wrong. So they tell the story to themselves that I'm doing this for my family. That's why they're working so hard. That's why they're pushing so hard. That's why they're not spending time with them, because we focus on the wealth aspect being the main thing that they need. Now, while a man is supposed to provide, okay, and they should be doing that. That should be a part of it. It's a man's responsibility also to spend time with his family, to spend time with his wife, to help around the house, to even if that means buying cleaners so they could do more things together. I have my own opinion on that, which I'll talk on one of my off segments about whether or not people should do stuff around their house and clean and so forth. Because we're living in the society that everybody's like, let's outsource all of that. You stop learning all of the things. There's meditation in cleaning and there's meditation in doing those things. I'll just leave it at that. Okay. And a lot of times, a lot of people say they'll be present later. They'll sacrifice now to enjoy life later. But when does it stop though? Right? Because we always have to keep going. I always want to keep going. And that's one of my biggest things that I need to be like, okay, this is what my plan is at this point in time. Let's get to that. And then I'll stop doing some of these other things. And that's really what I've been really rethinking, that by the time I'm 60, 62, I just want to work on boards and make content. I don't want to be in the grind as the CFO. I don't want to have to meet with all the lawyers. I don't want to have to plan all of that stuff. It's at that point, I just want to be on the board and give strategic direction. That's where my passion really is anyways, with strategic direction in what we're doing. And so trying to get to that point, I'm starting to realize I do want that at some point. I don't want it in my 50s. I think that's too early. I think 60s is a good spot. And then you have a good 20, 30 years to live out the rest of your life and die, I suppose, and leave what effort is behind, unless we can reach the singularity and then we'll all be robots. Okay. So when we think about hobbies, what do they actually teach entrepreneurs? They're training grounds. You learn to practice, you learn patience, gardening, learns delayed gratification. Martial arts learns discipline, right? So there are a lot of things that we can gain from our hobbies that we can put back into our businesses to continue to make us successful. And that's one of the things that I encourage all of you to do. Write down the things that you like to do and make sure that you do time for them, whether you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. An entrepreneur is someone that's working in their career and trying to build up in their career. Okay. So we need to think of things as these three portfolios, right? We have our financial capital, we have our relationship capital, and we have our personal capital. Those are the things that we need to organize and discuss. Okay. Because we need to have our money, investments, assets, business equity. We have to have our family bonds, our friendships, our professional networks. We need to have our creativity, our skills, our knowledge, and those all encompass into those portfolios. And we need to look at those things as how are we managing the time in all of those buckets as we continue to move forward in our life and as we continue to move forward in our businesses. The problem is that the world celebrates obsessed entrepreneurs. Okay. Obsession creates breakthroughs. Obsession can become destructive though, right? I work so hard because I'm building something meaningful, and that's true. I do work very hard because I'm working on building something meaningful. But if you don't do those other things, you're not going to be as efficient in those other things. That's why over these last couple of months, I've been really focusing on sleep, because Brian Johnson says, look, I'm doing this to teach people how to be healthy so that they can be more efficient and live a meaningful life, not so that they can work more on their business, so that they can be successful and healthy and more efficient in how they're thinking about things, how they're doing things, because sleep is one of the main things that drives us to just constantly focus on the wrong activities. So being healthy and mindful is so important for us to build families, to build our personal selves, to build our spiritual selves. And we need to make sure as entrepreneurs and business owners that we're doing those specific things and not trying to have a work-life balance. It's having a life and making time for all of the things that are important to us. And so when we think about legacy, we talk about legacy a lot with entrepreneurs. That means buildings, companies, investments, wealth usually. But ask someone about a parent, a mentor, or a grandparent they admired. Do they start with that person had so much money? No, it was the lessons that they taught me. It was the conversations that we shared. It was the examples that we set. It was the time that we spent together. It was the things that we did. Those are the things that are going to be remembered the most, not whether or not we had a bunch of money. Okay. If you have enough money so that you can manage stuff, take care of your family, and do the things that you enjoy, then I think that you could have a well-rounded life and world. And so it's not really whether or not entrepreneurs, like I said, can achieve a work-life balance. It's can entrepreneurs build a business that enhances their life rather than consumes it. And that's the key of what I'm trying to work for myself, so that then I can continue to build businesses, build my family, build my hobbies, build my relationships, so that at the end I can say I had a well-lived life, or I had a meaningful life, which is really what we should be thinking about more introspectively, on whether or not our life has purpose and whether our life has meaning apart from the wealth that we're creating and the businesses that we're creating. We want to say, I built something that was successful without sacrificing everything that mattered. So I encourage you to create a portfolio of your financial capital, your relationship capital, and your personal capital, and start to build your life around filling all of those buckets and diversifying your life. Again, we diversify our investments. We need to diversify our life. And as I always say, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye.
It's hard to believe you are real. Tell me, how does it feel? Tell me, how does it feel? I see the meaning of life in your eyes. It's like swimming in the ocean at night. And when I'm with you, it's like I'm on fire. Nothing is real outside myself and your smile lines. Bring me down with sweet soft sound. My name, the way it sparkles when it leaves your mouth. Fill my soul soul.